I think they're past the buck. I blame the Prime Minister. He's the one who's got blood on his hands. He has got blood on his hands.
On the afternoon of December 14, the Australian dream was shattered. At a Hanukkah by the Sea celebration at the iconic Bondi Pavilion, a targeted terrorist attack left the nation in shock. As families gathered to celebrate the first day of the Festival of Lights, they were met with a calculated act of evil. The Prime Minister immediately convened the National Security Committee, but for many Australians, the response felt like a script they'd heard too many times before.
Afternoon, there has been a devastating terrorist incident at Bondi at the Hanukkah by the Sea celebration. This is a targeted attack on Jewish Australians on the first day of Hanukkah, which should be a day of joy, a celebration of faith. An act of evil anti-Semitism, terrorism that has struck the heart of our nation. An attack on Jewish Australians is an attack on every Australian, and every Australian tonight will be, like me, devastated on this attack on our way of life. There is no place for this hate, violence and terrorism in our nation. Let me be clear, we will eradicate it. Amidst this vile act of violence and hate will emerge a moment of national unity, where Australians across the board will embrace their fellow Australians of Jewish faith at this dark moment for our nation.
While Albanese spoke of national unity, Pauline Hanson was already on the ground, calling out the systemic failures that allowed two radicalised individuals, a father and a son, to turn a place of joy into a killing field. Hanson argues that for decades, the wrong people have been allowed into the country, individuals with ideologies fundamentally at odds with Australian values. She points to the recent intake of refugees from high conflict zones as a primary driver of the current instability.
We've turned a blind eye to it, and the politicians have done this over a number of decades, that they've allowed this to happen. As you've said in your editorial, what you've said, people they brought into the country even, 49 years ago. The wrong people have been brought in here with the wrong ideology, the people that will not assimilate into Australian culture and values. And we're not on the same page. And I've been speaking about this for many, many years. And when I spoke out against multiculturalism in 1996, people boo-hooed me and they said, oh, well, I wouldn't know, it's all about the food. It's not about the food, people. It's got nothing to do with the food. It's about the cultural beliefs. It's about obeying the laws. It's about assimilating. It's about feeling that you are part of this country, that you embrace this land, you embrace your fellow Australians. And we've brought the wrong people here. And I've been speaking about this for so long. Susan Lee, to listen to her, I think she's pathetic. She doesn't warm me up at all, and I don't have confidence in her, the same as I don't have confidence in our Prime Minister, who is weak, gutless, and I've just got no time for them whatsoever. Australians now were angry last night, they're sad today, and they just don't know where to turn. They don't feel they're safe in this country anymore, and they have a right to feel that way. Unless we get strong leadership and we really turn the focus on who these men are, what their background is, why were they doing this, it's got nothing to do with the guns. It's about the ideology that these men felt and believed in, and that's what we've got to turn around. Take a good hard look at our immigration, which I've been on about for years and years and years, and I feel like till I'm blue in the face, and yet, I hear such weak, pathetic words from, the opposition leader and our Prime Minister.
As Prime Minister, I say on behalf of all Australians to the Jewish community, we stand with you, we embrace you, and we reaffirm tonight that you have every right to be proud of who you are and what you believe. You have the right to worship and study and live and work in peace and safety, and you enrich us as a nation. You should never have to endure the loss that you have suffered today. You should never know the fear that you know tonight. We will dedicate every resource required to making sure you are safe and protected. You are Australian, and all Australians are with you today and every day. My fellow Australians, I say tonight that there are nights that tear at our nation's soul. In this moment of darkness, we must be each other's light. Hold on to the true character of the country that we love. Australia is stronger than the cowards who attacked innocent people today. Australia is braver than those who seek to make us afraid. Australia will never submit to division, violence or hatred. We will see justice done, and we will come through this together.
Albanese attempted to reassure the Jewish community of their place in the nation, but Hanson countered that his government's actions, such as bringing in Gazan refugees when even neighbouring Muslim nations refused them, had effectively imported the conflict to Sydney's suburbs.
When I spoke to the Jewish boys that came to Parliament House and I spoke to them on the lawns, they were being bullied. We've seen this happen time and time again. He brought out these refugees from Gaza that we know they can't stand each other. The cultures are totally different. Why bring them out here to Australia when even Muslim countries wouldn't have them? Why bring out the ISIS brides and their children to Australia when Australians don't want them? Why do we keep bringing people in the country that are not compatible with our culture and our way of life? Australians keep asking these questions. He knew there was an issue with the Jewish people. He said, we don't want division here in our country. He's created the division because he never reined in these Islamic clerics with the hatred on our streets and in their prayer rooms. It was the hatred that's kept going on, and he made the Jewish people feel it was their issue, their problem, they're the cause of all this, which they weren't. And that's why I stood up for them, and I spoke up on behalf of the Jewish people who are, Australians here have a right to live in peace and harmony.
Perhaps the most damning revelation came when the Director General of ASIO and the AFP confirmed that the perpetrators were not lone wolves unknown to the state. One of the attackers, a 24-year-old male, was already on a watch list for radicalisation.
The risk of this sort of attack, localised extremism, I think, were any of these people on your watch list? I think the New South Wales Commissioner just said they were aware of one of these characters, that they were keeping an eye on him. Was he on either your radar at all?
So it's too early to give you any more details, Phil, other than to say, like the New South Wales Police, one of these individuals was known to us, but not in an immediate threat perspective. So obviously we need to look into what happened here.
Hanson pounced on this known wolf admission. She highlighted the absurdity of a radicalised individual living in a home with 6 licensed firearms, slamming the government for a double standard where law-abiding farmers are scrutinised while known threats are left to fester.
A fellow, 24 years of age, that was under ASIO, he was investigated, for radicalisation, and yet he was living with his father who had 6 guns. Why wasn't he investigated? If you've got a domestic violence, you can't be in a house that has guns. Why was he allowed to be in the house with his father with the guns there? So, the Prime Minister is wrong on this point, and I will not support him with changing the gun laws in Australia with regards to this. The government and the departments have failed to deal with this issue, the younger one, and living with his father who had the gun licence. So I think they've passed the buck. I blame the Prime Minister. He's the one who's got blood on his hands. He has got blood on his hands.
In the hours following the attack, the Prime Minister immediately moved the goalposts, focusing the political conversation on gun reform rather than the radical ideology that pulled the trigger. He proposed tougher mandates and limits on firearms, a move Hanson describes as a pathetic distraction from his own failure to name the enemy.
You know what? They're defecting the whole issue and he hasn't even said they're Islamic terrorists. Not once have I heard him say that. So they're defecting the whole lot to about guns. And there you have the farmers, you have law-abiding shooters out there saying, well, have we got to take the blame for this? Are we going to be faced with losing our guns because they didn't do the right thing? As I pointed out in the release that I put out,
Hanson vowing to block these changes in the Senate, arguing that the government is passing the buck to law-abiding shooters to hide the fact that their own security agencies dropped the ball on a radicalised father-son duo. The blood on the sand at Bondi has ignited a firestorm that unity speeches cannot douse. On one side, a Prime Minister pleading for calm and proposing legislative tweaks to gun registries. On the other, a One Nation leader who says the time of soft words is over. As the vigil ends and the funerals begin, Australians are left to wonder, is our probable terror threat level the new normal, or is it the cost of a leadership that refuses to see what's right in front of them? One thing is certain, Pauline Hanson isn't letting this go. And for Anthony Albanese, the questions are only going to get tougher. This is the Australian Report.